Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Yeah, so welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're going to be finishing the 9th canto. It's of Godhead. Is it? Yeah. Nice title. And yeah, so we'll be covering this whole chapter. And the verse that we're going to focus on is text 66. So can we get that up there? We'll start with reciting that. I think it's... Okay, cool. Jato gatapi trigrihad rajam editarto. Hadvari punsu tashatani kritorudaraha. Utpadyateshu purusha kratubhi samije. Atmanam atmanigamam pratayanjaneshu. Jato gatapi trigrihad rajam edhitarto. Hadvari punsu tashatani kritorudaraha. Utpadyateshu purusha kratubhi samije. Atmanam atmanigamam pratayanjaneshu. Atmanam atmanigamam pratayanjaneshu. It's a long one, right? Jato gatapi trigrihad rajameditarto. Hadvari punsu tasatani kritorudaraha. Utpadyateshu purusha kratubhi samije. Atmanam atmanigamam pratayanjaneshu. Jato gatapi trigrihad rajameditarto. Hadvari punsu tashatani kritorudaraha. Udpadyateshu Purusha Kratubi Samije. Atmanam Pratayanjaneshu. All right, let's do the word for word. All together. Jata, after having taken birth as a son of Vasudeva. Gata went away. Pitri Grihat, from the house of his father. Vrajam, to Vrindavan. Adita Arta, to exalt the position of Vrindavan. Hatva, killing there. Ripun, many demons. Sutta Shatani, hundreds of sons. Krita Ududaraha, accepting many thousands of wives, the best of women. Utpadya, begot. Teshu, in them. Purusha, the supreme person who exactly resembles a human being. Kratuvi, by many sacrifices. Samije, worshipped. Atmanam, himself, because he is the person worshipped by all sacrifices. Atmanigamam, exactly according to the ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedas. Pratayan, expanding the Vedic principles. Janeshu, among the people in general. So translation, let's read this all together. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, known as Lila Purushottama, appeared as the son of Vasudeva, but immediately left his father's home and went to Vrindavan to expand his loving relationship with his confidential devotees. In Vrindavan, the Lord killed many demons, and afterwards he returned to Dwarka, where, according to Vedic principles, he married many wives who were the best of women, begot through them hundreds of sons, and performed sacrifices for his own worship to establish the principles of householder life. All right, who would like to read the purport? Okay, Amrita.
As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedesche sarver aham eva vedya. By all the Vedas, it is Krishna who is to be known. Lord Sri Krishna, setting an example by his own behavior, performed many ritualistic ceremonies described in the Vedas and established the principles of Grihastha life by marrying many wives and begetting many children, just to show people in general how to be happy by living according to Vedic principles. The center of Vedic sacrifice is Krishna. Vedesha sarve aham eva vedya. To advance in human life, human society must follow the Vedic principles personally demonstrated by Lord Krishna in his householder life. The real purpose of Krishna's appearance, however, was to manifest how one can take part in loving affairs with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Reciprocations of loving affairs in ecstasy are possible only in Vrindavan. Therefore, just after his appearance as the son of Vasudeva, the Lord immediately left for Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, the Lord not only took part in loving affairs with his father and mother, the gopis and the cowherd boys, but also gave liberation to many demons by killing them. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. The Lord appears in order to protect the devotees and kill the demons. This was fully exhibited by his personal behavior. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is understood by Arjuna to be Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, the eternal, transcendental Supreme Person. Here also we find the words Utpavyateshu Purusha. Therefore, it is to be concluded that the absolute truth is Purusha, a person. The impersonal feature is but one of the features of his personality. Ultimately, he is a person, he is not impersonal, and not only is he Purusha, a person, but he is the Lila Purushottama, the best of all persons.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashachadeshatarane Panchakalpaturubhischa Kripa Sindhivya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So remember yesterday's class, Madhava Prabhu was saying that at the end of the next chapter, which is the current chapter that we're doing now, there's a great mystery. So I'm going to let you in on that great mystery and see if you can solve it. So the great mystery is that, we've been going through all these genealogies and hearing all these different pastimes of different devotees and different incarnations. And for example, we had 2 whole chapters about Parashuram, and we had 2 whole chapters all about Yayati, that lusty old king who wanted to get his youth back so he could enjoy sex with his wife for, many more years. And then we had a whole paragraph about Shyavana Muni and Sukanya and, all their marital problems. And then we had this whole chapter about this person named Sudumna, who got himself in trouble, and he ended up being a woman 1 month and a man a month, and he was a king, and that was like an issue for him. Anyway, so we had all these like long drawn out pastimes about incarnations and different personalities that just happen to appear in the solar or lunar dynasties. And now we're coming to the end of all these genealogies. And actually this 9th chapter, it's just full of genealogies. You see, it's a long chapter. There's 67 verses. And most of the verses are just, this person begot this person begot this person. And it's almost like Shukadeva Goswami is just like racing through this list of generations of names. And all these names are actually like, people who are great personalities who are celebrated throughout the Puranas. They all have, stories about them. But it's like Shukadeva Goswami, he's like in a rush now. It's like now we're so close. We've gone through all these chapters of lineages, and now we're so close to the appearance of Krishna. And so it's like he's just like, it's like the sprint, at the end of a marathon, that he's just like racing up to the appearance of Krishna. But then when we finally get to the appearance of Krishna, when he's talking about the pastimes of Krishna, there's literally 2 verses. In 2 verses, he summarizes Krishna's, whole lifetime in this material world. And this is the first verse is here, that he's saying, yeah, Krishna, he appeared as the son of Vasudeva. In other words, he was born, and then he went to Vrindavan. He had some pastimes there. He killed some demons there. Then he went back to Dwarka. He married lots of women there. He did sacrifices, and he, performed worship to show people how to be ideal householders. And then the last verse of this chapter is, after that, he created a big misunderstanding between his family members just to diminish the burden of the world. Simply by his glance, he annihilated all the demons on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, declared victory for Arjuna. Then he went and instructed Uddhava about transcendental life and devotion, and then he returned to his abode. Bus. So why is it that like Shukadeva Goswami spoke at length? He spoke such elaborated details, and all the feelings and the pastimes and the emotions and the drama of all these other avatars and personalities in the dynasty. And when he gets to Krishna, it's just like, yep, he was born, he went there, he did this, he married these people, he killed off his dynasty, and then he went back to Godhead. Haribol. That's the mystery that I want you to solve. What do you think the reasons might be? Christina.
He wanted to really stimulate Maharaj Parikshit's curiosity and his eagerness to learn about Krishna. So he did all this big build-up, and then just like gave him a couple verses, so Maharaj Parikshit would like jump out of his seat and be like that eager to hear.
Yeah, so he just kind of like whetting his appetite, kind of. It's like little appetizer, little like trailer before the movie, right? So yeah, and that's what happened. Like he was successful in doing that, because in the beginning of the 10th canto, the first thing that happens is Maharaj Parikshit is just like, Okay, so tell me about Krishna. I want to know more. And then we get the 10th canto. Yeah, any other reasons? I thought of two. Lo.
I think this is like a good like trailer to like read Krishna book, and also the 10th canto is like about Krishna's pastimes. So it's like, look at this next cool canto, read it.
Okay, so he knows that he's going to go into detail, and so he's just giving an overview, right? It's kind of like you give if you're writing a paper or something, you give an introduction, which you give an overview of the topics, and then you develop it in the body of the paper or the book or whatever that you're writing. So like that, yeah. Any other thoughts? You think about some things that you might know, some of you might know about Shukadeva Goswami and his relationship with Krishna. Advaita, you look like you have something stewing there in your mind. Not yet. Gopal Prabhu?
Well, at least some versions he coaxed Sukadeva Goswami out of the womb. Sukadeva Goswami didn't want to leave the womb because he would fall into Maya, some versions.
Okay, so how's that related to this?
I thought you said, what relationship does Sukadeva Goswami have with Krishna? Wasn't that the question?
Oh, the question was, I mean, that was that was a hint
Oh, I see.
to
Okay.
answering the
All right.
question of like, why is it that Shukadeva Goswami is just very briefly talking about Krishna's pastimes in a way that's just like totally objective, you know, like there's no emotions. It's just he did this, he went there, he did this, he went there, and then he went. Gopi Jivana.
Is he afraid that because he's very intimately involved with Vrindavan, he's one of Radharani's parrots, right?
Yeah.
So he's concerned that if he gets too absorbed, he might lose external consciousness and mess up the whole purpose of giving Parikshit Maharaj transcendental instruction in his final moments.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I was thinking that he's going to get too ecstatic, basically. Like that's why in the whole 10th canto we don't he doesn't directly say the name of Radha. He doesn't say the name of Srimati Radharani because it's just too much, you know, it's just like too much emotion. So it's kind of like, have you ever had that experience where, you know, let's say you're going to meet somebody who's really important to you, maybe, you know, like your spiritual master, you're going to meet your spiritual master for the first time, or, you know, let's say there's a potential life partner that you're going to meet and you're all excited about it. You've been thinking about it for like, you know, weeks, maybe months, and you're just like playing out the whole scene in your head and what you're going to say and how it's going to be and, you know, all the feelings, and you're all like revved up, and then you go to see the person and you're just like, you know, so how's it going? Good. Any questions? No. So why does that sometimes happen to us? Yeah, hello.
For me, sometimes I get like really overwhelmed because like there's just been so much buildup, and then it's like I kind of freeze up, and then I'm like, and then I'm not really in touch with like my feelings.
Yeah, it's just too much emotion. It's like overwhelming emotions, and you just kind of like, yeah, you just can't quite go there because you're afraid. Govinda?
You don't want to overwhelm the other person with your emotions, so it can be too much, so you want to control them.
Okay, so you might also want to tone it down for the other person so they don't think you're a complete drama queen. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I did get over there here out of my peripheral vision.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking, because you don't know how the person's going to react, you don't know how they're going to take it, so you're almost just like nervous to share that right away.
Yeah, that's also part of it, right? Because you have all this going on inside of you, but you don't know where they're at with you and your emotional state and your, you know, in this case, your ecstasy for Krishna. So, yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's what I felt was happening because, well, both of these things. But if we look at the verses that are leading up to this, these two verses that talk about Krishna's Leela. So I'm going to go back a little bit to text 55. So this is the end of the genealogy where he actually talks about the appearance of Krishna. So he's just finishing. And the 8 sons born of Sahadev, such as Pravara and Shruta, were exact incarnations of the 8 Vasus in the heavenly planets. Vasudeva also begot 8 highly qualified sons through the womb of Devaki. These included Kirtiman, Shushena, Bhadrasen, Riju, Samardana, Bhadra, and Sankarshan, the controller, and serpent incarnation. It's actually Balaram. The 8th son was the Supreme Personality of God himself, Krishna. The highly fortunate Subhadra, the one daughter, was your grandmother. He just kind of like casually mentions it there. And then he starts to expand a little bit on Krishna. You know, he gives this verse that's almost exactly like Bhagavad Gita. Yada yada hi dharmasya kshayo vritis cha papmanaha tada tu bhagavanisha atmanam srijate hari. That yeah, it's just like in the Bhagavad Gita, we have yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhutanama dharmasya tadatmanam srijam yaham. That Krishna is saying about himself. He's speaking in the first person, aham, I. Whenever there's a decline in religious practice and a rise in irreligion, at that time, I descend myself. And so Shukadeva Goswami is saying in the third person, whenever the principles of religion deteriorate and the principles of irreligion increase, the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead, Sri Hari, appears by his own will. He's basically reiterating that point that Krishna says about himself. And then he explains a little bit about his appearance. This is also kind of like Bhagavad Gita. He's saying, O King Maharaj Parikshit, but for the Lord's personal desire, there is no cause. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, I appear in my original transcendental form. I appear by my own energy, Atma Maya, Sambhavami Atma Maya. As the super soul, he knows everything. Consequently, there's no cause that affects him, not even the results of his fruitive activity. So he's being a little philosophical here, like Krishna appeared, and he's getting the philosophy of why Krishna appears. He continues, the Supreme Personality of Godhead acts through his material energy in the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this cosmic manifestation, just to deliver the living entity by his compassion and stop the living entity's birth, death, and duration of materialistic life. Thus, he enables the living being to return home back to Godhead. So now he's getting into why. And that also corresponds to Bhagavad Gita 4:9, where he says, Janma karma chame divyam evanyo viti tatvadaha tyaktvedeham punar janma naitimam eti Arjuna. That whoever understands the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities in this world does not take birth again in the material world, but goes back to Godhead, attains Krishna's eternal abode. So that's what he's saying, that he appears to display his pastimes so that people can hear those and go back to Godhead. Yeah. And then a little bit, because Krishna kills a lot of demons. So then he explains why that happens in this verse, text 59. Although the demons who take possession of the government are dressed like men of the government, they do not know the duty of the government. Consequently, by the arrangement of God, such demons who possess great military strength fight with one another, and thus the great burden of demons on the surface of the earth is reduced. The demons increase their military power by the will of the Supreme so that their numbers will be diminished and the devotees will have a chance to advance in Krishna consciousness. Interesting explanation of why wars take place. Like these demons, they get into positions, by Krishna's arrangement, they get into positions of power. By Krishna's arrangement, they build up their military strength. By Krishna's arrangement, there's a war, they kill each other off. Why? Also that the devotees can have a chance to advance in Krishna consciousness in a peaceful world. So, all right, well. And then he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, with the cooperation of Sankarshan, Balaram, performed activities beyond the mental comprehension of even such personalities of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. For instance, he arranged the battle of Kurukshetra to kill many demons for the relief of the entire world. Now, this verse here is really beautiful. So this is text 61. He says, to show causeless mercy to the devotees who would take birth in the future in this age of Kali, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, acted in such a way that simply by remembering him, one will be freed from all the lamentation and unhappiness of material existence. So it's showing how Krishna is so kind. You know that because Krishna appeared in Dwapara Yuga, but towards the end of Dwapara Yuga. In fact, Kali Yuga was scheduled to begin while Krishna was still here on the planet, but it couldn't begin because Krishna was still here on the planet. And so as soon as Krishna left, he knew that Kali Yuga was just going to come in. It was kind of like there was a dam that was just holding back the waters of Kali Yuga. And when Krishna left, that dam was going to open and Kali was just going to rush in, all the qualities of the age. And the age of Kali is characterized by, predominance in the modes of passion and ignorance and, irreligion and people being lazy and unlucky and misguided and disturbed, so much anxiety and trouble in the world. So yeah, it's the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, which diminishes all the good qualities of people. So Krishna's thinking, he's looking forward to the future, and he's thinking all these, I'm going to go, and these poor people in the age of Kali, they're going to have such difficult lives. And it's going to, because of irreligion will become prominent very quickly again, then I need to do something to help them. And then he's thinking that, well, people in Kali, they're into drama, they're into romance, they like violence and, mysteries and horror. They like all these things, you see that's what people like. That's what sells in Kali Yuga is like, sex, violence. So yeah, Krishna's like, okay, I'm going to give them the ultimate love story. I'm going to give them like so much violence, so much like killing and bloodshed. I'm going to give them mystery. I'm going to give them horror. I'm going to give them drama that just blows their mind. So with that in mind, he comes and performs his pastimes. So his pastimes are full of all that stuff. And his idea is that they'll be attracted to these things because those are the things that they like. So they'll be attracted to hearing about these pastimes of mine, and they'll remember me. And simply by remembering me, they'll become freed from all the pains of material existence. So that's Krishna's preaching program. And it just shows how Krishna is so kind, that he's actually like thinking about us and he's strategizing how to deliver us. And he's willing to actually like expose himself, he's actually willing to just reveal all of his most intimate pastimes with, the residents of Vrindavan and all that, just to attract our minds so that we can go back to Godhead, basically, so we can get back to where we belong. The next verse he says, simply by receiving the glories of the Lord through purified transcendental ears, the devotees of the Lord are immediately freed from strong material desires and engagement in fruitive activities. So by hearing these pastimes, actually there's a nice Sanskrit phrase in this text 62, says, Yasha Tirtha Vare. So Tirtha means a holy place. And Prabhupada translates, keeping oneself in the best of holy places by hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord. So that means that when we hear the pastimes of Krishna, we get transported to a holy place. Like our consciousness becomes situated in Vrindavan, basically, by hearing the pastimes of Vrindavan. And that way we become detached from all the things of this material world. And then in the next verses, he goes through a sequence, because Krishna means, Krishna's name, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's form, and Krishna's pastimes. So in text 63 to 64, Shukadeva Goswami focuses on Krishna's qualities. So here we have I'll read the translation. Assisted by the descendants of Boja, Vrishni, Andaka, Madhu, Shurasen, Dasharha, Kuru, Srinjai, and Pandu, Lord Krishna performed various activities. By his pleasing smiles, his affectionate behavior, his instructions, and his uncommon pastimes like raising Govardhan Hill, the Lord, appearing in his transcendental body, pleased all of human society. So qualities we have here in the Sanskrit words, I'll just go through so snigdha means affectionate. That's a quality of Krishna. He's very affectionate. And then smita means smile. That Krishna, he's always smiling pleasingly towards his devotees. Udarai means that he's magnanimous. He's very generous. He's very giving. Then vakya means speech. It's talking about his quality of speech, that he speaks very sweetly and he speaks for the benefit of others. Like when he speaks Bhagavad Gita, like he's speaking for the benefit of others. Then Vikrama Lila. Vikrama means heroic, that Krishna is heroic. He's a great hero, and his Vikrama Lila, in his pastimes, he acts heroically. And then, well, Prabhupada adds, like raising Govardhan Hill. That's not exactly in the verse, but Prabhupada just kind of throws that in there, like raising Govardhan Hill. And it kind of, I feel like with that, Srila Prabhupada has a little bit of an intuition into Shukadeva Goswami's meditation, because he starts off listing the names of these dynasties: Boja, Vrishni, Andaka, Madhu, Shurasen, Dashara, Kuru, Srinjaya, Pandu. They're all like dynasties that are, for the most part, outside of Vrindavan. He's not talking about Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, and the cowherd boys and all that. But because that's Shukadev's relationship with Krishna is in Vrindavan, in Krishna Lila, then he's saying the names of these other dynasties, but it's like Prabhupada's like, no, but he's thinking of Govardhan Hill. He's thinking, when he says Vikrama Lila, he's thinking of Govardhan Hill. He's not thinking of Battle of Kurukshetra. So Prabhupada just throws that in. And then Nrilokam Ramayam Asha, that his pastimes are pleasing to all people. And Murtya Sarvanga Ramyaya, his every limb, Anga, Sarva Anga, his every limb is just delightful. So with that, he goes into the next verse, which is a description of Krishna's transcendental form, his rupa. So the next verse is, Krishna's face is decorated with ornaments such as earrings resembling sharks. His ears are beautiful, his cheeks brilliant, and his smiling attractive to everyone. Whoever sees the Lord Krishna sees a festival. His face and body are fully satisfying for everyone to see, but the devotees are angry at the Creator for the disturbance caused by the momentary blinking of their eyes. So this, this verse is actually totally from the perspective of the Brajvasis. It was like last verse, there was a subtle indication of Govardhan Hill that Prabhupada put in there, but mainly he was just thinking, like Dwarka Lila and all that. But now we know that this is indicating Vrindavan, because devotees who are in different rasas, they focus on different aspects of Krishna. So those who are in Dasya ras, or who are servants of Krishna, they like to meditate on Krishna's lotus feet. Their focus is on Krishna's feet. And there's no mention in this verse of Krishna's feet at all. And then those are in Sakya ras, or friendship, then for them it's Krishna's whole body. They wouldn't give special prominence to any one part of Krishna's body. But those who are in Vatsalya and Madhurya ras, who are like in the mood of parents, Krishna, like Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, or a relation of conjugal love with Krishna, like the gopis, then for them the concentration is on Krishna's face. Like in Damodar Lila, we hear the descriptions of Krishna's lips reddish like the bimba fruit, his cheeks that are also reddish from being kissed by Mother Yashoda, his earrings swinging, and his hair that's blackish and tinged with red, or sometimes they say bluish black. So like that, it's all like his face, and here also we have his earrings, which are like sharks, his beautiful ears, his brilliant cheeks, his smile, And yeah, so it's all about his face. And then particularly we know that he's talking, he's thinking about the gopis' vision of Krishna, because of the last part where it says, the devotees are angry at the creator for the disturbance caused by the momentary blinking of their eyes. And that's, there's a verse in the 10th canto, chapter 82, which specifically says that it's the gopis who condemn the creator for giving them eyes that have to blink, because they just want to gaze, you know, like nonstop, incessantly at Krishna's beautiful lotus face. And, you know, every time they blink, it's like a million years passed, you know, in which they didn't see Krishna. And so it's so heartbreaking to not see Krishna before them, that they're like, dang it, why did Brahma have to give us eyelids and make us have to blink? So this is specifically the gopis who are saying that. And that comes out in the purport, because in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is just talking about the gopis. It's just all about how the gopis were very much afflicted because they would see Krishna walking on the sand, and they were worried that his feet were getting hurt by, you know, stepping on little sharp stones and thorns and things on the path. And they would cry just thinking about that. And it talks about, yeah, the gopis condemned Lord Brahma, giving them eyelids. He talks about, yeah, the beauty of Krishna's face was therefore much more appreciated by the gopis than even by the cowherd boys, or even by Mother Yashoda, who was also interested in decorating the face of Krishna. So Prabhupada brings that out, that Shukadeva Goswami's meditation is going towards the gopis and their relationship with Krishna, and he's describing Krishna's face the way the gopis of Vrindavan see it. And so then in the next verse, when he's supposed to be, so he's already talked about, he mentioned the name of Krishna, he mentioned the qualities of Krishna, now he's described the form of Krishna. But in meditating on that form, it's like he got too much in the mood of the gopis and Vrindavan, so that now when he comes to the Leela, he's just like, yeah, so he did this, went there, did that, and gone. Like he's already like, he can't go there. He's just choking up already, you know, he's too emotional to really get into it. So, but one interesting thing here is that he does say in the Leela that's significant, is that he appeared as the son of Vasudeva. So Krishna was born in Mathura as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, but he immediately left his father's home and went to Vrindavan. The very day that he was born, like just minutes passed between his birth in Mathura and going to Vrindavan. And he went to Vrindavan to expand his loving relationship with his confidential devotees. That's what it says here in the verse. And then Prabhupada elaborates on that in the purport, that the real purpose of Krishna's appearance was to manifest how one can take part in loving affairs with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the reciprocation of loving affairs in ecstasy are possible only in Vrindavan. So this was really the main part of Krishna's mission, that he wanted to display his Vrindavan Leela. He wanted to attract us to his Vrindavan pastimes, and he wanted to pull us in. He wanted to just pull us in. And because it was, there was a sense of urgency that I really need to do this. Like, I'm taking birth as an ordinary being, as an ordinary human being. So that means I'm going to live, you stay here for the lifetime of an ordinary human being. I'm not going to be here long. There's a lot to do. I want to make sure that I do this. This is my top priority. This is what I'm going to do first. I'm going to go to Vrindavan. I'm going to immediately manifest Vraj Leela to attract the minds of the conditioned souls. That was his main thing. So yeah, it just amazed me that that's, you know, that Krishna came to give this highest, most intimate gift to us, the lowest, most degraded people in Kali Yuga, you know, the sort of fag end of the cycle of yugas, you know, when everything's just like totally deteriorating really fast. And so, yeah. And there's actually this text 61 where he says that Shukadeva Goswami says that Krishna, he enacted his Vrindavan pastimes just to show causeless mercy to these poor souls who would take birth in Kali Yuga. There's a very similar verse in the 11th canto. Madhava Prabhu pointed out this verse to me, so I'll read it. Yeah, this is 11:1, 6 to 7. So this is the very beginning of the 11th canto, and the 10th canto is all Krishna's pastimes. So now Krishna just finished his pastimes. He returned to no, he didn't return to the spiritual world. He finished his like main leelas, Vrindavan, Mathura, like that. And anyways, so Shukadeva Goswami says this. He says the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the reservoir of all beauty. All beautiful things emanate from him, and his personal form is so attractive that it steals the eyes away from all other objects, which then seem devoid of beauty in comparison to him. When Lord Krishna was on the earth, he attracted the eyes of all people. When Krishna spoke, his words attracted the minds of all who remembered him. By seeing the footsteps of Lord Krishna, people became attracted to him, and thus they wanted to offer their bodily activities to the Lord as his followers. In this way, Krishna very easily spread his glories, which are sung throughout the world by the most sublime and essential Vedic verses. Lord Krishna considered that simply by hearing and chanting those glories, conditioned souls born in the future would cross beyond the darkness of ignorance. So it's in the future being Kali Yuga. Being satisfied with this arrangement, he then left for his desired destination. So it's interesting that this verse 9:24-61 is saying that, yeah, Krishna performs these pastimes just to deliver the people of Kali Yuga by attracting our minds. And then we have the whole 10th canto where all those pastimes are narrated. And then after all the 10th canto pastimes are finished, the 11th canto begins by saying that, yeah, now Krishna considered that he had done his job. He performed his pastimes, and those pastimes are going to attract the ears of the conditioned souls, so that in Kali Yuga, so that they won't be attracted to other things. The beauty of Krishna's form is going to attract the eyes of the conditioned souls, so they'll just want to look at Krishna. They won't be attracted to anything else. And Krishna's words, Krishna's instructions are going to attract the minds of all the people in Kali Yuga, so that they won't follow anything else. They'll just want to follow Krishna. And so it says that Krishna, considering that this was all done, that the opportunity was there, that he'd given access, sufficient access to Kali Yuga souls to reach him, then he was satisfied with everything. And so he left. He returned to his own abode. So yeah, it's kind of like the introduction, why Krishna came, why this was so important for us, because Srimad Bhagavatam is the book for Kali Yuga. That's how the context in which the Bhagavatam was spoken. It was, the sages, they were gathered for a sacrifice because they knew that the age of Kali was beginning. They were really concerned about the plight of conditioned souls in Kali Yuga, how they could make spiritual advancement. The Sutta Goswami comes on the scene, and they're like, these people in Kali Yuga, they're lazy, misguided, unlucky, always disturbed. They have short lives. They're inclined to quarrel. How are they going to make spiritual advancement? What are they going to do? And then Sutta Goswami starts off saying that the way for them is to chant the holy names of the Lord and to hear the pastimes of Krishna. So that's the whole purpose of the Bhagavatam, is to establish the Yuga Dharma of chanting the holy names of the Lord, and to establish the objective of that Dharma. Like, what are we trying to achieve when we chant Krishna's names? We're going for Krishna. We want to have a relationship with Krishna. We want to know who Krishna is. We want to go back to Krishna's personal abode in the spiritual world. And this is what that looks like. This is what the spiritual world looks like. This is who Krishna is. This is who his associates are there. This is what he does there. This is how they feel there. This is like, what's going on. So he gives us the goal, and he gives us the process to reach that goal. And so, yeah, this is a very emotional topic for Shukadeva Goswami, and so he's holding back. He's kind of just giving a very brief synopsis, and it's also to kind of test Maharaj Parikshit, because in the beginning, yeah, Maharaj Parikshit also, he asked Shukadeva Goswami, he said, now I've got 7 days left to live. And I've given up my kingdom and I really want to know, like, what is it? What is my duty now? What is a duty for a person who's about to die? And specifically, what should one hear, chant, and remember? And so Shukadeva Goswami at that time, he said that one should hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna, remember Krishna, because by doing so, then one can be transferred to the abode of Krishna at the time of death. And Krishna says that too in the Bhagavad Gita. He says that whoever at the end of their life puts their body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature of this, there's no doubt. So that's what the goal that Maharaj Parikshit is going for. And so Shukadeva Goswami is going to, now we're coming to the end of the Bhagavatam. Maharaj Parikshit has just maybe 2 or 3 days left to live. And so Shukadeva is also testing him a little bit, like by not giving him, an in-depth pastimes of Krishna right at first. He's testing him like, so did you get it? Do you remember what I told you way back when, that actually the duty of a person about to die is to hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna, and remember Krishna? And he's testing to see if he actually understands that, or did he get caught up with all the dramas of the 9th canto, all these crazy stories and love affairs and fall downs and things like that. Because sometimes we get attracted to sort of just juicy, mundane gossip and stuff. So, but see, he kind of like intentionally put that stuff in there to see, do you want to hear about this? Are you into like the crazy dealings of this world, or do you want to know about Krishna? And he actually explained the crazy dealings of this world more, with more feeling and more elaboration than Krishna. So he's like, so do you want to hear more about that, or do you want to hear about Krishna? And so Maharaj Parikshit passed the test, because in the beginning of 10th canto, he's like, forget about everything else. Just concentrate on Krishna. Just tell me about Krishna. I don't want to hear about anything else. And then Shukadeva Goswami's like, all right, Jai, here we go. And then he starts from Krishna's birth and all the way up through. All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Any questions or comments? Gopi Jivana Prabhu.
It's a little bit random, but when we looked at today. So I'm going to do the Sanskrit and translation quickly. So it says, Shamam Hiranya Paridim Vanamalya Parha Tatu Pravala Natavesha Manavartam Che Vinyasta Hastami Tarena Dunanam Abjam Karnot Palalaka Kopola Mukab Jahasam. So when Krishna and Balaram approached the wives of the Brahmanas, it describes Krishna like this. It says, his complexion was dark blue and his garment golden, wearing a peacock feather, colored minerals, sprigs of flower buds, and a garland of forest flowers and leaves. He was dressed just like a dramatic dancer. He rested one hand upon the shoulder of a friend, and with the other twirled a lotus. Lilies graced his ears, his hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus-like face was smiling.
Jai. Beautiful description. Thank you. Anything else? Oh, Adi Sham Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a wonderful class. I have a comment and a question. Comment is when you were talking about Gopi's being concerned about Krishna's stepping on the sharp stones and sand. I happened to hear this morning that when cows heard about it, they would go before Krishna and crush all the stones. That was really so the question I have, I'm sorry if I'm running a little bit ahead in the pastimes, but it's been on my mind lately. In later pastimes, when Krishna's in Mathura, I believe, and then Shamantaka jewel pastime, he goes to this cave of Jambavan, and devotees come with him, but they're afraid to go in the cave. But in early pastimes, cowboys just go in Agasura's mouth and cave, no problem. Is there a difference in relationships in Vrindavan Mathura devotees? Why Mathura devotees were afraid to go with Krishna in the cave, and Gopas were not?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a difference between the residents of Vrindavan and then the residents of Dwarka, is that, yeah, the residents of Vrindavan, they're just like, Krishna, it's just all about Krishna. Krishna is their only shelter. Krishna is everything for them, so they would, they would just rather, the other thing is that when the cowherd boys went to Agasura, Krishna had just killed Bakasura. And that was the first, well, they didn't, I mean, he killed Putana before that, but they didn't really see that. They weren't around. That was like in the house. Mother Yashoda, Krishna's little baby. So his friends, they were too young and they weren't there. But Bakasura, they were out in the pasturing grounds and the boys were all there. They saw Krishna kill Bakasura and they were just like, whoa, Krishna is cool. He is tough. Like that was awesome. And so when they saw Agasura there, they had that thought that, this is a demon, probably. This looks like a huge snake that wants to eat us up. They did have that thought. But they went in because they were thinking, hey, Krishna just killed Bakasura, and, we want to see him kill another demon. So let's just go into the mouth and Krishna's going to save us, just like he just saved us. He's going to kill this demon, just like he just killed a demon. And it's going to be this amazing pastime that's going to be epic. So yeah, they did it just to get Krishna to kill another demon, just so they could watch the fun. Because the boys are like, they're like chivalrous. They like a good fight. They like wrestling. They like, so they like to see Krishna show off his fighting skills. So yeah, the inhabitants of Dwarka, I can't remember, did he tell them to wait outside? I think he might have told them to wait outside. Longer, it was like 27, 28 days. He told them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he told them to wait outside. Because they weren't going to be able to handle it. Yeah. Hello?
Kind of have like a weird, like really specific question. I've heard like in Damodar Leela and in what you were discussing in this class that Krishna has shark-shaped earrings. Do they mean like shark, like the animal in the ocean?
Kind of. It's the
'Cause
word is,
I'm not able to like see it.
the word is makara. It's an animal that doesn't really exist anymore. I guess it existed back then, but maybe it's gone extinct since then. But makara is it's not exactly a shark. It's kind of like because sharks are kind of like aggressive and predatory and stuff. It's more like a playful animal. I've heard that it's kind of like a cross between a dolphin and a shark. Yeah, not exactly what it is. It's kind of like a mysterious creature.
Thank you.
But
That's
yeah.
interesting.
Okay. All right, I think it's time for breakfast. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam.